But for right now, Insight has had some issues, so I'm trying to go in there and take care of from my side whatever I can take care of. So Engage is supposedly updating things, and so the program gets altered, and sometimes it shuts down, and you can't access it or whatever it is. So I'm trying. I'll see what I can do by adjusting as much as I can. I'm hoping everything should be displaying and showing for you shortly, but I'm hoping that I don't have to go back and remark papers again. If so, we may not get that many marks this time. We may all be less than 10. Hey. Anyway, as we're looking at the last week or so of class, you do realize that, right?
Is Thursday our last day?
Because next week is your final. In fact, your final is scheduled for Tuesday the 8th. But I'm going to let you have time inside to turn in up till the 10th. So you'll have time. Because that way, if any other issues arise, I'll contact you saying, listen, bring it in. Print out and bring it into me. But we are looking at only 1 week. We've been talking about the last topic for the last couple classes, because we really haven't had, it's been a while since we've had class. It's been a whole week. We've been talking a little bit about the idea about the perfect society. We looked at utopia. We talked about what makes a good world, what kind of world we're looking at. We also talked about, the once we walk away from Omelas. I know both of those are literary works. But we talked a little bit about what needs to be done to have a perfect society. What qualities, what traits, what's going to be important. We asked you to look at the purpose or goals of government and how government should be to help us to achieve what we're supposed to achieve, which in the case of the Declaration of Independence, again, something we've referenced in your book, that we're endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we talked a little bit last time about happiness and what is happiness, and are we really guaranteed this right to happiness? And in fact, that's what we're going to look at today. We're going to look at the article by C.S. Lewis. That's in your textbook on page 594. No, 794. 794. We're going to be looking at that article and some of his comments that he raises about happiness and the right to happiness. So we're going to discuss that idea and work from there. On Thursday, I will be giving you your topic. I didn't give you the topic already, did I? Okay, I didn't think so. I said Thursday, I'm giving you the topic, and that'll give you a full week to then think about and work on it. The idea about the right to happiness and how that then proceeds within creating our perfect world or utopia. The people in, again, I'm going to use the Laguine story. The people in Omelas are happy, except for the ones who walk away. It's idea that one child suffers for the greater good of all others, that the society is made perfect. The benefits that everyone enjoys are paid for by the price of one. That one child has to suffer. And I asked you last time we met, what are you willing to have happen to ensure a perfect world? Are you one who could stay in Omelas, or are you one who would have the need to walk away? Although you don't know necessarily where you're going, what kind of world you're going into. Would you leave Omelas because one child suffers? Well, that becomes problematic. Why are you willing to give up? Why are you willing to sacrifice in order to have a perfect world? A government that works and functions for all. What are you willing to do? Now, longer I care to think about, 14 years ago, after September 11th, 2001, the idea about security at airports changed dramatically. and access to terminals and all the rest, right? It used to be that you could go in, walk through, go to the terminal, and be right there as your friends were boarding the planes. Your family members were boarding the planes. You'd be right there with them and watch them go right on through there. Not anymore, folks. Right? When's the last time? How many of you have flown in the last few years, right? Yeah. People don't get to go with you anymore. If they don't have a ticket, they stop at a very short area. At DFW, it's like if there's this really narrow corridor, and that's about it. You don't get to go too many places unless you have a ticket. They don't let you through. And you get scanned, and you get searched, and you have to take off your shoes, and right? Well, you used to not have to do that. You used to be able to show up, maybe 30 minutes or so before your plane, check your bags, go off there. People can walk in there with you. You sit around, you talk for a few minutes, and you get on your plane. Not anymore. But people, especially after 2001, were willing for that to take place because of security measures that they feel safer. So they're willing to give that part up. There are other issues that we sometimes willingly sacrifice, but not always. When you go to the ATM, those of you go to ATMs, there's a camera there, right? You're being recorded as you make your transaction. But we're willing to do that. Okay, so I get my money, convenience, getting your money right there, but hey, you're being recorded. And it's becoming useful, right? Those cameras can actually be used in a number of ways, surveillance-wise, etc. Police can have access to recognize what's going on around the area. There are cameras located in different locations in towns that can be accessed. The police can access to see about something taking place. We're willing to do that because, hey, it helps. It helps catch criminals, etc., right? But you're being observed a number of times, right? College, we have cameras at certain places, in hallways. You all do that, right? Yes, no? I'm sure over at the high school, there are cameras, right? And they're constantly, they can record it, they digitally record it. They'll keep sometimes they'll only keep a week or so of recordings, but they can go back and check things. If something comes up, they really can. All of you are perfectly fine with that, right? You don't mind being recorded? Hey, not doing anything, don't have to worry about it. But you didn't always have that. I go back a long time for when I was in high school. We didn't have cameras in school, okay? There were no cameras in our school. We didn't have a camera on the outside of the school. Technology for that just did not exist. Well, we accept technology helps in a number of ways. You have a phone, and we've already talked about that when we were discussing teens and technology issue. Those phones can be used to track where you are. We brought that one up. Well, many people don't mind that. You don't even think about it for the most part. Many parents find that useful for their younger children. Okay, they can track where their children are, right? Yeah, it can be useful. Parents especially may like it, but not every person may necessarily like the fact that they can be tracked in that way. Cars are made nowadays with tracking devices, right? They can locate cars. Well, how do you feel about that, folks? Do you like knowing that some person sitting somewhere in front of a computer can track and figure out exactly where you are at what time? Does that infringe upon you? Do you feel that somebody is taking away some of your rights of privacy or your chance to do certain things that will keep you and make you happy? Because, hey, you should have the right to be happy. Or do we have the right to be happy? Do we really? That's a yes/no question. Do we have the right to be happy, or at least to pursue happiness, as Jefferson phrases it? Do we have that right?
I would say we have the right to pursue. As far as having the absolute right. I don't think anyone has to give us that.
Okay. What if your pursuit of happiness infringes upon somebody else's pursuit of happiness? What happens then?
And they would be hurt by my happiness.
Okay, so therefore their happiness is not as important as yours?
No, I wouldn't want it to be that way, because then I wouldn't be happy because they're not happy. Because someone else is sacrificing so I could be happy. But if I know about that, then I still wouldn't be happy.
Well, how many of you participated in Black Friday last Friday? I don't do that sort of stuff, but some of you did. Were you happy when you got those sales, when you were able to get there early and get that product that was marked down drastically? You do realize that means you're buying that item meant one less for somebody else, and somebody else who got there a little later did not get a chance to get that. So therefore they were not happy. How do you feel about that? So would you give it back to them? Say, here, you take it. No, right? Well, but you just said that you'd be...
Yeah, I never thought about it like that.
I had one over here, she was like, you wouldn't know, you wouldn't have known. Think about that. When you find a parking place right up front and you get it, you realize you took that place from somebody else who was also trying to find a close parking place? So you're going to back out of it and go as far away as possible so that somebody else can be closer? Or are you going to, hey, no, I got here first. That makes me happy to be here. You're going to take it, right? But what happens when our pursuit of happiness stalls someone else's pursuit of happiness? Does that mean we should stop pursuing it? It raises issues about what happens when two people searching to be happy, their paths conflict. Children accuse parents of that all the time. You don't want me to be happy. You want me to be miserable. That's why you're taking away all this, or you're not giving me this. And the parent has to explain, no, I'm trying to teach you a lesson about something else. But children see it that way. What happens if we make a decision that, hey, I want to be happy, so I'm going to go do this. And if that means this other person doesn't get to be happy, hey, that's his or her call. The example that C.S. Lewis uses in the book, in case you may have forgotten this particular article, again, 794, we have no right to happiness is what it's called. Hopefully many of you know about C.S. Lewis, who he was. He was best... Supposed to be showing me? Okay. Of course, to many people, for the Narnia series, right? Lion, Witch in the Wardrobe, etc. Magician's Nephew, all those things. He also wrote a number of other areas as well. He wrote basically a play now. There's a play version of it called Screwtape Letters. It's a book, and then it's made into a play called Screwtape Letters, in which a young demon receives advice from his uncle, an older demon. Really, yeah. Lewis, as your book mentions, he was an atheist until he was like 30, 31. They say 31. When he then converted to become a very staunch Christian, because Chronicles of Narnia clearly have a Christian theme to it. He was very good friends, very close friends with J.R.R. Tolkien. You may know Tolkien, right? The Hobbit, The Fellowship of the Rings, Two Towers, Return of the King, and the Lord of the Rings trilogy, among other things. They were very close friends. Tolkien was a staunch Catholic, in case you're wondering. He was a very staunch Catholic. He was always trying to convince Lewis about the rightness of belief in God, because Lewis was an atheist for a number of years. The apocryphal story is supposedly he was on a train when Lewis had his moment of revelation of understanding, and so he stopped and sent a telegram to Tolkien. Basically says, John, you were right, I believe. And so, interesting story. I don't think it's true, but it sounds great. I said, okay, you're right. They became a very staunch defender of Christian beliefs and values from that time on, from his 30s on. This particular one, he uses examples about Mr. A and Mrs. A and Mr. B and Mrs. B. In case you don't remember, he talks about these two couples and how Mr. A has left Mrs. A and Mrs. B has left Mr. B, and Mr. A and Mrs. B have married. They've gone off to be together. And this is the comment that's made on page 794. It says that no doubt Mr. A and Mrs. B were very much in love with one another. If they continue to be in love, if nothing went wrong with their health or their income, they might reasonably expect to be very happy. So that Mr. A deserts Mrs. A and got his divorce to marry Mrs. B, who had got her divorce in order to marry Mr. A. So you know that. Two families, they divorce, and two of them marry. So Mr. A and Mrs. B are now Mr. and Mrs. A 2.0, I guess. And yeah, he says Claire, that's his wife, makes a comment about they had a right to happiness. And he goes on and talks on page 795, I can understand a right as a freedom guaranteed me by the laws of the society I live in. Thus, I might have a right to travel on the public roads because society gives me that freedom. That's what we mean by calling the roads public. I can also understand a right as a claim guaranteed me by the laws and correlative to an obligation on someone else's part. If I have a right to receive 100 pounds from you, this is another way of saying you have a duty to pay me 100 pounds. If the laws allow Mr. A to desert his wife and seduce his neighbor's wife, then by definition, Mr. A has a legal right to do so. We need to bring in no talk about happiness. Right, he says, is either a legal obligation or it is a freedom guaranteed by law. He says that's not what Claire meant. She meant that he, Mr. A, had not only a legal but a moral right to act as he did. In other words, Claire is, or would be if she thought it out, a classical moralist after the style of Thomas Aquinas, Grotius, Hooker, and Locke. She believes that behind the laws of the state there is a natural law. See, John Locke and the rest of them, there's a natural law that supersedes anything above the power of the state. There's a natural law. And that the laws of the state should reflect that natural law, that we have a right. Jefferson phrases it, because he's drawing on John Locke and Rousseau, he phrases it, we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. If they're not given to us by government, no, we are born with those. They are inherent in us. The right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That those are inherent aspects, natural in us. That we all have the right to be happy. We have the right to happiness, Claire says. Well, my question is, do you really? Do you have a right to happiness? In this season of the year, you already seen all the TV programs. I can't believe how many movies have been made over Christmas themes. Just amazing. Every time you tell, here comes another one. Christmas program. Tonight, it's December 1st, so guess what plays on CBS? Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. As if you don't already own the DVD. But it plays on December 1st. CBS plays it. It kicks off their Christmas program. Charlie Brown Christmas was on, I think, last night.
Is there the stuff from way back?
Oh, way back. Yeah, we're talking, this is 50 years plus for, yeah.
It's still the same one?
Same one. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, same one. And same thing with Charlie Brown Christmas, same one. Last does his little recitation from the Bible, and then they take that little tree out and wrap it around and take all the decorations off Snoopy's doghouse, which won first place. Do we have a right to happiness? Very simple question. It's a yes/no question. Do you have a right to happiness? I had a yeah. Okay. I heard one yeah. Why?
Well, it's not really why, but yes, you have the right to happiness because we're going to do it one person, not one person. Or they won't like you to be happy. because they're not happy. So that's the way I see it. We all have the right to be happy, but there's always that one person.
There's always one person who doesn't want you to be happy. Again, I said the children sometimes accuse that of their parents. But does everybody agree that you have a right to happiness?
So what she's kind of saying is that we have a choice. Is that?
Yeah, you have a choice to be happy. Like no one's. I mean, people are going to tell you things to not make you happy, but you do have the right to. You listen and you don't. So you have the right to be happy.
You do? And my question, who says so? Is it a natural law? You know, when children are born, are they happy?
I think they were much happier at that moment where they just were.
You know, think about it. When a baby is, you know, what's the first sound the baby usually makes? A cry. That doesn't sound like a cry of happiness, is it? So are you born happy? Or is it something you have to find? I mean, I know these are issues you're going, I haven't thought about this. Well, good. You need to be thinking about this because you're going to be writing an essay shortly about, you know, should we guarantee happiness to people? And should we construct a government, a society that allows people to be happy? Should that be the purpose of government? Then we have a purpose of government. It's fine, thanks. So, are we guaranteed happiness? Yep. Now we can't get into. Hold on, let's see. Get this working a little better. Let's see if we can get this to work. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Okay. We're going to show you guys a video here in a moment. When we are looking at this idea about happiness, this is what C.S. Lewis says. Again, 795. Says that the laws of state, there's a natural law. I agree with her. I hold this conception to be basic to all civilization. The actual laws of the state become an absolute, as in Hegel. They cannot be criticized because there is no norm against which they should be judged if there's no behind them. Says that they have a right to happiness, Clare's maxim he calls it, are cherished by all civilized men, especially Americans. Laid down by that one of the rights of man is a right to the pursuit of happiness. He says, now we get to the real point. What did the writers of that August Declaration mean? He says, here's what it, and so trying to figure out what does that really mean. He says, okay, let's take it from the negative. Here's what it does not mean. They did not mean that man was entitled to pursue happiness by any and every means, including, say, murder, rape, robbery, treason, and fraud. Okay? You know, if having money makes you happy, and we know that Ms. Grogan has $1,000 on her person right now. Right, Ms. Grogan? Got $1,000? Okay. Well, that not mean Mr. Berryman is free of $1,000. That will make me happy. And she has to surrender it, right? You don't get to do that. You do not get to have Miss Waymeyer, you know, say, "Hey, Grogan, I'll, you know, give you $2,000 for your $1,000. All you have to do is just, you know, loan it to me for 2 days, and I'll bring it back to you on Thursday with $2,000." Right, Miss Waymeyer? Because you know, I have an opportunity for an investment. It's going to make me really happy to make this investment and get the money, and I'll be, you know, well, of course, then Miss Waymeyer never comes back to class. That would be fraud, okay, in case you're wondering. But it made her happy. She got $1,000 from Miss Grogan. You know, you don't get to do that, right? We don't allow that. We say that's fraud and that's illegal and you can be punished. We don't allow certain actions, even if it does make Miss Waymeyer happy to have that $1,000 in her hand. Okay, she missed Cyber Monday behavior. Some places extend their sales through the day or the rest of the week, whatever it is. You don't get to do that. We have laws in place. He says, you know, this does, you know, what the pursuit of happiness means. It does not mean this. Then he goes on and makes this comment. They meant to pursue happiness by any lawful means. That's why he says, okay, when they say the right to pursue happiness, he says by any lawful means. How many of you believe that is what Jefferson meant in the Declaration of Independence? They are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness by any lawful means. Do you believe he meant that?
I would say more that than not. I mean, lawful means would be within the limits of law.
But it's not the law that gives them the pursuit of happiness, the right to pursue happiness. They're endowed by their Creator. So, what does the law have to do with it? Are we saying that governments must always be a reflection of the Creator's purpose? Well, that raises issues, doesn't it? Depends on what religion you are, or if you are religious. Because it doesn't. I mean, folks, these are issues we have to think about. It's what happens in our world. We tell you you're guaranteed certain rights. But do we really mean it? And what exactly do we mean? Well, he's taking the position that, well, by any lawful means. That's what is meant here. And therefore, the pursuit of happiness involves that.